Hello and welcome to the Hellraiser blog, brought to you today, very special Hellraiser blog from Paris in France. I'm over here for the Yuri Kalenga versus Junior Dorticos WBA World Cruiserweight title, that's tonight. But today's blog is not about that fight, today's blog is about the fight that the whole world, the whole boxing world especially, is talking about, and that is Canelo versus GGG, Saul Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. So, it's a confusing... I think first we have to go through the background of the whole situation. It's a confusing fight, and it's confusing to people that work in boxing. So for casual fans or people that are sort of just coming into boxing, understand why they just cannot make head nor tail of it. So let's go to the base of it, what's happened. First, Golovkin won an interim version of the WBC middleweight title back in October 2014. He stopped Marco Antonio Rubio in 2 rounds. So he becomes the interim champion. Miguel Cotto then paid GGG so that he could fight Canelo ahead of GGG fighting him. And Canelo beat him. So then Canelo became WBC champion. Part of the agreement was that those two would then fight each other. And they'd be able to make a fight in the interim, in the meantime, with whoever else. So anyway, now we're at a point where Canelo has just knocked out Amir Khan, as predicted on this blog, in the 6th round. Golovkin recently beat a guy called Dominic Wade, and now they should be fighting each other. I have to give credit to Maurizio Suleiman. He said, we're not going to mess around. You have 2 weeks to make a deal, and it was supposed to be signed off 15 days to make their deal, and that was on May the 9th. Anyway, time has moved on, and yesterday Canelo decided to take his WBC belt and put it in the bin. He just said, look, I'm not having anybody telling me who I can fight, who I can't fight. I'm not going to entertain purse bids where I don't get as much as I think I should. If you're not happy to do it my way, which obviously the WBC took a stand on, I give credit to Maurizio Suleiman for doing that, because for boxing integrity purposes wise, and for boxing to survive as a sport, we need to have a framework that is workable, that people can understand, and that all the parties are obligated to abide by. At the same time, if that framework results in fights being completely out of line with the commercial side of the sport and the business, obviously it can't carry on as they'd like it to. So what's happened here is Canelo's basically thrown his toys out the pram and said, look, I'm not having anyone telling me I've got to do this by that time or this by that time. He's saying he does want to fight Golovkin, but he's not going to do it on the terms given to him by the WBC, where he might have to go to purse bids. An interim champion against a champion, by WBC standards, their rules would be 55% to the champion, 45% to the challenger. And basically Canelo's saying, I'm not taking just 55% of this deal. And there's reasons why maybe that's understandable, and you also have to understand this might just be the party's way of stalling things for a little while longer. You know, until they'd had their recent fight against Khan and against Wade, who knows? In a fight, you can hurt your hand, you can get cut, you can get knocked out, you can get beaten. Anything could go wrong. So it's difficult to make plans for the next fight until you've had this fight. They had this fight, and almost immediately is, right now you've got to get to work straight away. Well, I can tell you all the parties would have been exhausted from working on the fights they just had. And to have that force on them, maybe it was a little bit too harsh, a bit too much for them to deal with. And this might just be their way of stalling the date of the fight, and also flexing their muscle a little bit, especially Golden Boy, who promotes Canelo, and Canelo himself. They might be thinking, well, you know, we are the entity that brings all this money to the table, not the WBC, not GGG. GGG brings some money in, but it doesn't bring what Canelo brings in. So they might be thinking, okay, we're going to make a stand, and we're just going to take their title, and if you're not happy, you know, we don't care, in the bin, we'll just move on without it. So what happened? Where we are now. And like I said, this might just be their way of stalling the fight. They're still going to have the fight. He's not saying, here's the title, I don't want it and I don't want to have the fight. He's actually said, I'm going to have the fight. But he's not going to have it on those terms. So now they have to find another way of putting it together. I mean, theoretically, the WBC, they actually could just give the title now to Golovkin, because he's a mandatory and the champion is basically not defended. He would have an argument, he should just be entitled to receive the title, or fight whoever the highest rated challenger is, and then he gets the belt anyway. Probably, how I'm hoping anyway that it will happen is that they will work out a deal that works for them. Because, I mean, let's run through where they bring money in, then you'll understand why Canelo's not going to take 55% of the purse split. And I can understand, if not I've ever managed anyone as highly sort of established as Canelo, but if I did, I wouldn't be taking 55% of a purse bid against Golovkin. For simple reasons. I mean, yes, Golovkin is an emerging entity and commodity in the boxing world, but I mean, Canelo is a proven pay-per-view fighter. 2 million pay-per-view sales when he boxed Mayweather. Obviously that's versus Mayweather, when pretty much anyone would make lots of pay-per-view sales. Almost 1 million when he boxed Cotto. So his argument obviously is, well, look, I know when I fought Cotto, I bought him 1 million, almost 1 million. To fight Golovkin, I'm going to bring in at least that amount. Golovkin has never, I mean, he's only ever done one pay-per-view fight, and he certainly didn't bring in 1 million pay-per-view sales. So I think it was reported he did 150,000. You never know exactly the figures, but okay, if we're saying ballpark 150,000, that means he brings in a fraction of what Canelo's going to bring in. Because Canelo for this fight, I think for fighting Golovkin, will bring in a huge amount of, I think everyone will want to buy that. That's something everyone wants to see. Meaning that he's saying, well, why would I take 55% of a deal that I'm bringing like 80% of the money to? So basically he's saying, right, pull your socks up, WBC and GGG, and come back with a better deal for me, and we'll make the fight work. We'll make it happen. But I'm not going to do it for the amounts that you're trying to force on me. So fair play to him as well. He has to stand up. Boxing's a short career. You've got to get the best financial deal that you can while you can before the party's over. So I mean, if we take it for granted then, so Canelo is earning far bigger purses than GGG. I mean, for the Khan fight, with pay-per-view included, he'd have got somewhere between 12 and 16 million US dollars. Golovkin is still a growing entity. He's claimed to have sold 20,000 tickets for a recent fight. Difficult to confirm with those kind of claims, because the way the deals are structured, other fighters on the card, local fighters and things like that. If you get a big show that they want to fight, and you can get big ticket sellers locally that can come. It's not as easy. Whereas pay-per-view sales is more black and white, okay? And we know that Canelo, so we take it for granted, Canelo brings in far more. It isn't a standard, like say when you have Mayweather against someone from, wherever they pick the guy. It's very much Mayweather versus X, or Mayweather versus Y, or Mayweather versus Z. It doesn't really matter. It's Mayweather, right. This to me it's not Canelo versus X, it's Canelo versus GGG. So what GGG is going to say is, right, well, okay, he probably acknowledges he's not as big a draw, but he's more than just a Joe Bloggs or a Joe Schmo, someone that they've picked out of some ratings somewhere, right. So he's wanting more of the share. Oscar De La Hoya has been quoted as saying that he hopes K2 will come to the table in good faith and get this deal done, which to me, that's a little bit of a cop-out, because to say, we hope he comes in good faith, Well, what does that mean? If that they could say, well, okay, that's what you're getting, go away and be happy about it. And if he's not, if GGG says, well, I'm not happy with that amount, they can then say, he didn't come in good faith, he was being ridiculous, he was being outrageous. The whole point of a purse bid is it's supposed to be a way of judging the market value of the parties participating. With the situation that we have now, I think the way that they've positioned themselves, Golden Boy, and I really like Golden Boy. For me, they are, if there is such a thing as the boxing fans promoter right now, I'd probably say Golden Boy are pretty close to it. They stream a lot of fights. The way they put a lot of fights that people want to see. They are for me, they're the boxing fans promoter. So I give them credit. You know, I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm slating them. They're doing a lot of really good things in boxing, and you know, I want to encourage that. But at the same time, look, if they don't negotiate it to GGG's liking, he's actually entitled to, because he's not going to fight at 11 stone 1 for Canelo, which is one of the demands presumably they would have made initially in their negotiating. And when Canelo made that claim after the fight against Khan, when he says, we don't mess around in Mexico, we fight, I'll fight, he may have had in the back of his mind, well, I'll just say to my money people, you know, the promoters, Moneybags, Golden Boy, I'll say to them, look, give him a little bit more money, and because Uncle Oscar will go and pay off this guy from Eastern Europe, he'll come down to 11-1 or 11-3 or something like that, and I'll win the fight then, because he'll be weakened and it'll be more in my favour. The problem that they've had, and I'll expand on this as well, is that GGG, I think, has just said, I'm not losing 0.1 pound. I'm coming in at 10.6, the middle limit, 160 pounds, and sorry, 11.6, and that's it. And Canelo there has a real problem. And look, I had a boxer, Dean Byrne, boxed in Monaco on the undercard once when GGG was boxing. So I had a little bit, we were in the changing room next to his, and I met him and we spoke to him. He's a very nice guy, very laid back, extremely laid back. And I'll say, even when you leave a changing room, you know, a lot of boxers are nice guys, they're good people. But when they are in the changing room, wrapping their hands, getting ready, you can see complete transformation. Not all of them, some of them stay very relaxed, as Golovkin was. But some of them, you know, they start talking to themselves. I'm going to do this, and they're trying to motivate themselves, often because they're thinking, I need to do this, I need to get myself in the zone, because my income is dependent on me doing this. And so they're trying to sort of manufacture almost hatred of the opponent. I saw Golovkin, he walked past me as he was going to the ring. He looked, the only person I could ever compare to how he looked was how Manny Pacquiao looked when he boxed Ricky Hatton. He looked like he didn't have a care in the world, smiling, he was almost laughing. And Golovkin was like this. He walked in, he looked like he was walking, you know, going for a walk through the park with his girlfriend or something, you know, he just completely unconcerned. And a big smile on his face, just walked through. And that makes me think that he doesn't fight for money. He doesn't try and drum himself into any kind of frame of mind. I think he fights because he likes achieving, and he likes winning belts, and he likes being a world champion, and he wants to be, I'm sure the money comes in handy, but he doesn't strike me as a guy who's fueled by anger or rage or hatred or greed for money, or desperation for money. He seems like a guy who's just a happy person in life. He's happy. He just goes in. He's going to have a boxing match. He's very, very good at boxing, and he keeps winning things. And that's how I sort of see him, his attitude, his approaches. And then you've got a problem. If you're coming to a situation where you're saying, well, we'll give you this if you'll absolutely annihilate yourself weight-wise, to the point where we know you won't be able to perform. Because he probably, no matter there isn't enough money in the world to persuade him to do that because he wants to achieve. So basically what he's saying, probably in their negotiating, I haven't been party to it,